Hello, this is the Lord's Legion and welcome to a brand new countdown. And in this video we're going to be counting down the top 10 comic book films of 2017. Now 2017 has been a pretty big year in terms of comic book films. And although there has been some stinkers here and there, for the most part it was a pretty strong year. So in this video we're going to be looking back at 2017 and we're going to be ranking down all of the comic book films that came out in 2017 from worst to best. And before anyone asks, yes, I will be including some animated films as well, because, you know, if Lego Batman can qualify in this list, then I may as well go all the way. And at the very least, we do have a top 10, so without further ado, let's begin. So kicking off the list at number 10, we have Batman and Harley Quinn. Now this one is probably the only film in this list that I actually do not like one bit. Because this film is more or less the first 30 minutes of The Kill and Joke, but just amped up even further. Because Batman and Harley Quinn try so hard to be edgy just for the sake of shock value. And it just pretty much represents everything wrong with the current DC animated films ever since The Kill and Joke. The animation for the most part was pretty choppy, the characters were surprisingly unlikable, and the fact that this is meant to take place in the DC animated universe just makes it all the more unforgivable to me. Because to me, Batman and Harley Quinn was such a huge mess of a film. Coming in at number 9, we have Teen Titans: The Judas Contract. Now I'm not extremely familiar with the original source material that this film is based around, so I can't really vouch on whether or not this is really accurate. That being said, this is quite possibly the most boring comic book film of 2017. Because the first time I tried to watch this film, I pretty much fell asleep before even Deathstroke could show up. And when I gave it a second try, I was hoping to fall asleep again because this was just so boring. The characters to me were pretty bland, Terror was an unlikable bitch, Deathstroke was just as shit as he was in Son of Batman, and the overall animation and art style to me was just completely bland. And coming from this new DC animated universe, it doesn't surprise me one bit that this film is completely forgettable. Coming in at number 8, unfortunately goes to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now I really wanted to love this film, but sadly, I honestly think that Volume 2 is one of the weakest films in the MCU thus far. Now that's not to say that the film is bad, far from it. In fact, if anything, there are some enjoyable moments, but for the most part, it was kind of forgettable. The main cast yet again was spot on, and even some of the side characters from the original film had more to do in this one. And hell, even Ego was an interesting villain. But what really hurts this film is the fact that it's just more of the same. I don't think it was as memorable or even as fun as the original. And I was expecting so much more from Volume 2, and unfortunately, it's just a huge disappointment. And coming in at number 7, we have Justice League. Now this is pretty controversial in that I put Justice League above Guardians Volume 2, and I'm just gonna say this right now, Guardians Volume 2 was a much better made film. However, what puts Justice League above Guardians Volume 2 is that unlike Guardians Volume 2, where I was incredibly disappointed and almost kinda disliked the film, at least with Justice League, I came out of the theatres with a smile on my face. And yeah, I can totally understand all of the criticism that Justice League keeps on getting. The special effects were hit and miss, the pacing was off, Steppenwolf was a completely shit villain, and it even contradicts half of the stuff already established in the DC Extended Universe. But with all that being said, I still very much found the film to be fun for what it was. Batman was great, Wonder Woman was brilliant as always, and even Superman for once felt like Superman in this universe. And despite how what little the rest of the Justice League had in this film, they were at least enjoyable. And not only that, some of the fight scenes were really memorable and some of the visuals were really spot on when they actually land. And again, I do understand that many people found this film to be disappointing, and I don't even blame them for wanting better out of this film. But coming from a guy who had next to no expectations out of this film, I at the very least had fun. Coming in at number 6, we have Justice League Dark. Now I did state earlier that the new DC animated universe is completely bland and forgettable, however Justice League Dark, so far at least, is the only one out of these films that is legitimately great. And it's also probably the best DC animated film in a very long time, at least in terms of straight to DVD ones. But why I really enjoyed this one so much is the fact that it felt completely experimental and it took advantage of the animation style. And the whole cast as a whole, from Deadman to Etrigan to Dr. Satana, to even John Constantine voiced by Matt Ryan, was phenomenal. And although Batman does have plenty of screen time in this film, never once did he really overshadow the Justice League Dark. And overall, Justice League Dark was fun, breathtaking, and just downright gorgeous. Coming in number 5, we have Thor Ragnarok. Now, some people claim Thor Ragnarok to be one of the best films in the MCU, and honestly, Thor Ragnarok just barely makes it onto my top 10. And although I did have a major issue with the humour overshadowing the drama of the film, I can't deny that I did have a ton of fun with Thor Ragnarok. And for once, they actually made Thor into an interesting character. And his chemistry with Loki, Valkyrie, and even Hulk was spot on. And even the main villain Hela is quite possibly one of the best the MCU has to offer. Some of the action sequences were really good when they actually land, the special effects were really good despite a few speed bumps, and there were a lot of exploration in Thor Ragnarok that felt really fresh. Although Thor Ragnarok isn't one of my favourite MCU films, I can't deny that it is an incredibly fun ride. Coming in at number 4, we have the Lego Batman movie. Now, this film had no business in being as good as it was, and surprisingly, it was really phenomenal. Yes, this film did have a lot of jokes left, right and centre, but above all else, it had heart. This film is a complete love letter to the Batman mythos, and it really does deliver in that regard. The animation has its very own charm thanks to its Lego aesthetics. The character and set designs were really amazing, and although this is more or less a complete spoof of the Batman universe, it did have the perfect balance of both comedy and story. And it's a really strange situation in saying that the Lego Batman movie is the best Batman film since The Dark Knight. And you know what? This film actually does deserve that claim. Coming in at number 3, we have Wonder Woman. Now, like I had with Justice League, I had next to no expectations going into Wonder Woman. And coming out of that film, I was legitimately shocked. Because Wonder Woman isn't just a good DC Extended Universe film, but an amazing DC Extended Universe film. Gal Gadot did a phenomenal job as Wonder Woman, and she really did do the character justice, as well as the writer and director. But not only that, some of the action sequences were breathtaking, and even some of the shots were beautiful to look at. Wonder Woman was such a huge step in the right direction for DC, and here's hoping for the future films such as Aquaman and whatever film they have up their slate to really keep up to the same quality of Wonder Woman. So for our runner-up, we have Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, this film was such a huge step in the right direction for Spider-Man, because unlike the last few Spider-Man films, this film was focused, character-driven, and short-scaled. Tom Holland has yet again proven himself to be the superior Spider-Man, in every sense of the word. But not only that, the Vulture is by far one of the best villains in the MCU alongside Hela and even Loki. However, what I really love about Homecoming is the fact that it felt completely fresh in comparison to the other Spider-Man films that came before. This film has its own identity, and I love how this version of Spider-Man is still a novice. Spider-Man Homecoming may not be the most ambitious film of 2017, but really it didn't have to be. All it had to be was simple, straight to the point, and character driven, and this is exactly what I wanted from Homecoming, as to which this film succeeds. And finally, taking the top spot, we have Logan. Now, what's there that hasn't been said already about this film, other than the fact that it's a complete masterpiece? And it's also the perfect send-off for Hugh Jackman's run as Wolverine. What really works about Logan is the fact that it's a very personal story and it's very well focused. From beginning to end, Logan had me hooked. From stellar performances all around to its very personal story. And similarly to Homecoming, Logan was very short scale and it actually took advantage of that. And it really does surprise me on how well this film actually took its tone, by being incredibly brutal and depressing, but in a strangely satisfying way. And many people deem Logan to be the best comic book film since The Dark Knight, and in many ways I can actually agree. And for all these reasons, it comes as no shock to anyone that Logan takes the top spot as the best comic book film of 2017. So do you agree with my list, and what is your personal favourite comic book film of 2017? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.